to the Lehocky Eagles postgame show. I am Mike Missinelli, Derek Gunn, and Seth Joyner. Devin Caney will join us later. Here's what I had to say. The Eagles are pretty good, right? I mean, they're really good, and today they were like sharks that saw blood. What was the blood? The Titans could not stop the pass. What did the Eagles do? They passed them into oblivion, and the result is Jalen Hurts, 380 yards through the air, for 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown coming back at his old team with 8 grabs for 119, 2 TDs, one when he was wide open by like 30 yards, the other where he snatched it right out of the defensive back's hands, and Devontae Smith with 5 grabs for also triple digits. So they now move to 11-1, and they shackled Derrick Henry. It was a dominant, one-sided performance. I don't know what else to say, Derek.
Mike, when you have the multitude of miscues that this Eagles team had today, and normally when you have that many miscues, you let the opposition back in the game. But they still asserted themselves. We knew going into this game that Tennessee could not defend the pass. And so why run the football? They came out passing the ball. They dared Tennessee to stop them, and Tennessee couldn't stop them. You know, one thing I really liked about leading up to this game, A.J. Brown was very reserved about his approach to this game in terms of what this game meant to him, Seth. But you could tell in his play, his body language from start to finish, this was a game that was circled on his calendar for quite some time, and he went out and put some big numbers up. That touchdown he caught over the defender was an exclamation point on his afternoon.
Well, I mean, and he had another one called back for another 30-something, almost 40-something yards that he just barely stepped out of bounds on. But, you know, listen, I've been in that situation before. When you play against your former team, the thing you want to show them is what a mistake they made and what you actually bring to the table, and you want to exact some revenge. And not only did the Philadelphia Eagles get this W, but A.J. Brown exacted his revenge today. I will say this about the Philadelphia Eagles. This is just a pretty damn good football team, period.
Yep.
Because when you can go through a game with the kind of miscues that they had on the offensive line from a penalty standpoint, and then you turn around and you slow down one of the premier running backs, you know, in the game. It's just one of those situations where, and then you come out and you throw the ball like crazy. You know, I said in pregame that I thought Jalen Hurts would probably have to throw the ball 40 times in order for them to win because of the run defense. But I had no idea he'd put up these types of numbers. I said 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, kind of tongue-in-cheek a little bit. But I think this kind of puts to rest all the nonsensical chatter that we've been hearing for the last 2 or 3 weeks, because the Eagles have been running the ball to win, you know, opposed to throwing it. And there's this thought that, hey, you know what? This team can't throw the ball. They've kind of fallen off throwing the ball. Well, this staff has proven that they will do whatever is necessary to win a football game. If they got to throw it, they'll throw it. If they got to run it, they'll run it, and they'll do whatever else, you know, along the way to get the job done.
That's totally the key, because we've seen coaching staffs in the past when the other team is weak in a certain area, they for some reason won't attack that weakness. But today, the game plan, obviously, listen, the Titans were 31st in the league against the pass. They came right out and threw the ball against them, and I know that was something that we really wish they were going to do this in this game. And meanwhile, what they realized that the Titans aren't, once you get ahead of this team, the Titans aren't going to beat you. And it hurt them that Treylon Burks got hurt. But once you stop Derrick Henry, that's not a team that the Ryan Tannehill's going to rescue with the wide receivers he has and the talent. And the Eagles had 6 sacks today because of that.
You know, here's another example of how fortunate we are to have a team that's so deep across the board in talent. When one key player goes down, you insert another one and it doesn't miss a beat. You look at a team like Tennessee, and there's more teams out there than not like Tennessee. Once you lose a frontline talent, you are hurt severely. They lose Treylon Burks, it severely hurts their running game. If they can't run the football to set up the pass, it severely hurts their overall offense. Their defense is stout against the run, but they can't defend the pass. They're an either-or team on both sides of the football. You look at this Eagles team, they're an either-or team on both sides of the football, but you stop their run, they kill you through there. You stop the pass, they run all over you. That's a great luxury that most teams in the National Football League don't have.
They had 11 penalties today, Derek and Seth. 9 of them from the offensive line. Well, one Jalen Hurts got on a false start where he shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, how do you explain? They really weren't focused early on, especially with a lot of these false start penalties.
Well, I saw a tweet or some information somewhere where, at halftime, Nick Sirianni, made the comment that, what was going on with the offensive line, he took responsibility for it. Now, most of the time, coaches are going to do that. But I can't imagine, what the issues were that you can have 5 false starts, in the first half of a football game. But, Mike, to your point, this goes to show how good of a football team this is when you can have, I don't know how many total penalties they had on the day. 11 penalties. I guess the saving grace is they didn't turn the ball over because, 1 or 2 turnovers, things could have been markedly different. But this is a pretty darn good football team to overcome the things that they've been able to overcome. The only time they haven't been able to overcome some of these issues that they've had was that loss to Washington, when they had the turnovers and penalties and everything going on there.
Yeah, they had penalties early in the game. In the first drive, they come out throwing, though, and they kept getting setback, and they still push forward, and they get the touchdown to Devontae Smith 3 minutes into the game, 7-0. Boom. Right away, you put Tennessee on their haunches going, okay, we're behind. How are we going to combat that? And they did come back and tie it. But the longer this game went on, there was no way, once the Eagles got a big lead, that they were going to come back.
Well, it should tell you what their game plan was right from the outset on that first opening drive. They go 75 yards. They only ran the football 1 time. I thought there would be a little bit more balance to see if they could test Tennessee's interior. But they told you right from the outset, we're throwing on you all afternoon. I dare you to stop it. And plain and simple, they could not stop it. Now, we had talked about for the last couple of weeks, the Eagles' passing numbers are down because they're running all over everybody, okay? Now they come out and pass the ball. I don't want to hear people talking about, they can't run the football. Well, Tennessee is really good against the run. They just can't stop you in the pass. Yeah. You beat your opponent, Seth, any way you can.
Well, listen, there's no doubt about it. However it is that you got to get the W, the most important thing is getting the W. And whether you got to run the ball or pass the ball or a combination of the two to get there, who cares? As long as you're winning the games. But I don't know. We'll find something to complain about. We'll find something.
No, we're not complaining today.
Hey, listen.
Listen, we're going to complain about the penalties, obviously, but they win comfortably. So they'll address that. That's a team problem that Sirianni's going to have to deal with. But, this Titans team had a lot of sacks coming in. They were pretty efficient getting to the quarterback. They didn't do that today.
Well, 9 times out of 10, when you can control the run the way that they can control the run, and you've got some halfway decent pass rushers, then you're going to be okay. I mean, they got Bud Dupree. He did a pretty good job today rushing the passer. The Eagles got themselves in trouble, I thought, a little bit in the second quarter and into the third quarter when they just went strictly pass. They got in a situation where all they were going to do is just throw the ball. Well, even whether you have success running the ball or not, I'm curious to see. Let's see. On third down conversions, the Eagles are 3 of 11 today. And I would imagine a lot of that had to do with the fact that they were, somewhat behind the gun, if you will, as far as, the penalties are concerned. But they could get where they need to get to when they wanted to. I just thought that, if anything, they could have had a little more balance in that little small window, because what began to happen is, the Tennessee Titans started to get some pressure. The Eagles essentially made themselves one-dimensional by just throwing the ball all the time. And if they had just created a situation where they could have just gotten, a few runs sprinkled in there, then I think it would have been a lot easier for them offensively, and they probably would have scored a few more touchdowns. It's just going crazy back here.
Yeah.
Hard for me to keep hard for me to keep my train of thought with this New York and this Washington game going on.
The great thing about doing live TV at a sports book is that there's a lot of invested fans with other games, and the Giants and the Commanders just finished an overtime tie. at 2020. So a lot of disappointed Giants fans that are down here today. But you know, there's so many great things to look at in this game, and so let's talk about A.J. Brown first of all. I mean, he's obviously had this circle on his calendar. Anytime you're traded or you moved out of an organization, even though it benefits both teams, you feel like you're not wanted. So as an athlete, you bring that chip of your shoulder to the field. And he wanted to perform in this game. He wanted to show the fans back in Tennessee watching this game what they missed.
Well, when you take into consideration what he had done his first 3 seasons for that organization, he comes out of the gate his rookie season and his second campaign, over 1,000 yards receiving. His third year was cut short by injuries, but he still had close to 900 yards receiving. He was outside of Derrick Henry, he was the focal point of that offense. And basically, Tennessee said, we're not paying you what you're asking. And from what we understand, it wasn't a big difference between what the Titans, what he wanted from the Titans and what the Eagles ended up giving him. So, you know, he didn't want to leave Tennessee. They forced his hand. So he comes here where he's welcomed with open arms, a $100 million contract, $57 million guaranteed, and he's got new life. And as the season unfolds, oh, by the way, he just happens to be playing for the team with the best record in the National Football League that, oh, by the way, has Tennessee on his schedule this year. So naturally, it's just a personal game for him. And he wanted to show, you're right, Mike, Tennessee fans, the organization, because if you look at the one touchdown he had, he was jaw-jacking with the Tennessee sideline at one point. So, yes, this was personal to him.
You know, it's funny because he's in a much better place, and I think he admitted that during the week that he's in a much better place. But you still have that little axe to grind. I mean, look, he's got a new contract and a team that may go to the Super Bowl. So that's a pretty good deal for him. Seth?